Okay, so we have let our sourdough starter sit in the fridge for a couple days, and as you can see, there's a little bit of an oil layer on top, and that means that it is ready to go. So first, to get started on our dough, we need to first mix the oil back into the starter. So I'm gonna take off the lid and do that. And then, so after you get that all mixed in, you want to take 1 cup of your starter. I probably should have doubled mine, but I think I'll still have enough, hopefully. So I'm just gonna measure it out real fast just to make sure.
You have to get
It's gonna get close.
get one of those spatulas so you can scrape it.
Making a bit of a mess.
That's half the fun of baking.
Wait, where did...
It's no good if you don't make a mess.
I need a wider top jar to do that.
Oh, do we need
It's a little
to
bit of a pain.
get you a wide enough jar?
Yeah. And so, I just barely have enough. But if you have more left over, you would be able to add more to it and put it back in the fridge, and you could just reuse the same starter till it, I guess, till the bread loses its fluffiness. You need to add more yeast after that, but I'm gonna have to redo my starter because I don't have very much left. But so after that, you'll just add it to a bowl. And then what we want to do is we want to add 2.5 cups of flour, and 2 cups of really warm water. You want it 105 to 115 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's hot.
Not that hot. It's not boiling.
Warm, but not.
And then you'll just want to mix that together until it's nice and smooth. I forgot to mention that if your dough hasn't, if your starter hasn't gotten an oil layer on top, you might want to wait a little longer. And if it still hasn't gotten a little oil layer, then you'll have to start it all over. You'll have to start over. Okay, and then once you got it all smooth, what you want to do is cover it and leave it in a warm place for about 8 hours. And then after those 8 hours are up, it should look, it should puff up a little bit and should be very bubbly. It will also
starting to be bubbly.
Yeah, it's already starting to be bubbly. It'll also smell like sourdough. It'll have a sour smell. What I like to do to cover it is I just like to put like a glass pot lid on top, and then I'll And then I'll get another bowl, fill it with warm water, and set this bowl on top of it to keep it nice and warm. Are you filming?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So just get warm water. I just like to set that on top. And then just let it sit for 8 hours. Let it bubble up. And then we can get started on our dough. So we've let our starter dough mix rest for about 8 hours covered and resting in some warm water. And after the 8 hours, you can see that it's become very all nice and bubbly. And it smells like sourdough. And so, pull it out of the bowl, and we are now gonna make our bread dough. And so, I'm gonna be mixing my dough in a KitchenAid mixer with a bread hook. But if you don't have one of these, you'll have to mix it by hand.
Whatever, if you have a mixer that has a dough hook.
Yeah.
It's just easier if you have one. How long do you have to mix it by hand if you don't have?
I was gonna go into that earlier.
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
even mention that now.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna scrape it all in. Oh, trying not to make a mess. Now, once we've gotten all of that into the bowl, we are going to add around 4 cups of flour into it, 3 tablespoons of sugar, a teaspoon of salt. I forgot the oil.
And some oil.
How much oil? 3 tablespoons of oil. Did you turn it off?
No?
And then 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil.
Don't you do? Would that be like that? Don't you do? No. Don't you do?
Excuse the noises in the background. And then once you get all that in, we'll turn it on and get it all mixed up. Start getting it all mixed up. And you will want to mix it till it becomes a nice top ball of dough.
Slow and easy till that flour's moved it mixed
Yeah.
in. So, back to my other question. How long would it take if you did this by hand? 10 minutes, I believe.
That's to knead it after it's all
To knead
mixed
it.
together.
Okay, so what does the recipe say for?
Well, once you get it all mixed together, you'll want to make sure it has enough flour. If you need to, add a little bit more flour, and then you could either take it out of the bowl if you don't have a mixer and knead it by hand, you'll knead it by hand for about 10 minutes, and then if you have a mixer, it takes about 3 to 5 minutes just to knead it all with the mixer, I guess. Nice round ball.
Normally it's a good sign if nothing is sticking to the bowl.
Yeah, nothing should be sticking. If it's still a little sticky, add more flour.
need that water anymore.
I'm gonna redo the warm water. I need more
Right.
water. So now you could grab either a clean bowl, or wash out the bowl you were using before. And you're gonna take your dough. That's it. Mine's still a little sticky. I might need to add a little bit more flour. Still a little sticky to the bowl. I'm just gonna pull this down, add a little bit more flour, and then mix it a little bit more. Sticky dough. Mostly just getting it to where it won't stick. It won't stick, but it's a nice clumpy bowl. You pull it up again. Now, yeah. Grease your bowl so it doesn't stick to the bowl while it rises. You're just gonna take your dough out. As you can see, it's a nice top ball. It's still a little sticky, but it should be good. And then you're just gonna put it in there, spray the top. And then you're gonna cover it. And the spray on top of your dough will help it so whatever you cover it with won't stick to your dough. So you're just gonna cover it again. And you're gonna set it in a new bowl of warm water and leave it for an hour and a half to let it rise. And it should double in size.
Okay, so Deanna had a youth activity, but the bread must go on. So, if you can see that, it's doubled in size. So now we're going to put it into pans. Now sourdough bread, usually you'll see it in a round shape and they cut into it and that kind of thing. We like to do it in bread pans, and then that way it's a little easier to cut for sandwiches. These pans need to be greased. So you just take a little bit of shortening. You rub the shortening in the pan. Sometimes shortening works better than the spray because it doesn't run. So, let's grease that up a bit. We're going to do 2 loaves. This will make 2 loaves. So, and then Deanna says, you just take this, you want to make sure you wash your hands. You take this dough, divide it in half. Okay, and then you can roll it around and put it in your loaf pan. And then this has to sit for another 45 minutes to raise, double again, in a warm place. So I've got my oven going at 375, so we'll set it on the stove, let them raise for another 45 minutes, and then we'll be able to bake them.
Can I see some?
So we've let the loaves rise for 45 minutes, and now we're gonna slip them into the oven at 375 degrees for
35 minutes?
35 minutes. 35 to 45 minutes. We've also scored the top. It'll
Make it look pretty.
make it look pretty.
It is now.
Okay, so after the 35 minutes, it should look nice and golden brown on top, and patterns on top turned out really nice. Makes it look really nice. Well, looks like they might be done. They smell amazing.
Smell vision.
Hollow on top.
Is that what they're supposed to sound
I don't
like
know.
if they're done?
It's kind of, yeah, I gotta,
Yeah, they do sound good.
because it makes that airy.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this video on how to make sourdough bread. If you like what we do, and well, if you like this video, please leave a like, and if you enjoy what we do, subscribe and turn on the notifications so you never miss what we upload. Thanks again for watching, and we hope you enjoyed.